welcome everybody to another live recording of the Business Travel 360 Linking the Travel Industry podcast, where we discuss travel industry news you're talking about on LinkedIn. My name is Rian and I'm one of your hosts today. I'm a co-founder at Agentivity, where we provide operational reporting and data automation solutions for travel sellers. So if that sounds of interest, please get in touch. As usual, I'm joined by Ash and Anne to help me discuss the stories with you. Over to you, Anne.
Welcome, everybody. I'm Anne. I'm an independent consultant with LeapShift, and I specialize in distribution, NDC, one order, airline retail. So happy to help you with that. Over to you, Ash.
Hi, everyone. My name is Ash, and I'm the host of a weekly business travel podcast called What's Up in Business Travel, where we give you only the important updates in under 15 minutes. Additionally, I'm the Vice President of Client Success at Traxo, and this is Linking the Travel Industry.
Thank you both, and thank you for those joining us today. If you are new to the event, we cover the most engaged and talked about travel industry-related stories on LinkedIn from the previous week. And again, as mentioned, if you have a comment on those, you are more than welcome to do so. Just type it in and we'll bring that comment on screen. So we are going to start the list of stories with the tragic event that happened last week with Air India Flight 171 from Ahmedabad to London with a disastrous crash. One survivor. Obviously, it made a lot of headlines, lots of discussions, still lots of discussions going on about it. Enormously sad story. Before we actually talk about it, just from Linking the Travel Industry, we want to convey our condolences to everybody affected. And we wish a speedy investigation and conclusion so that things can be fixed. But this was a really big story. And I don't know if you have any comments from your side.
This is incredibly sad, of course. Personally, I'm just shocked that this guy who survived. I wonder, you have this entire aircraft going down and you sort of see a crack somewhere and you just make it for that crack and get out of the aircraft. Unbelievable.
Absolutely unbelievable. And apparently he wasn't even meant to sit there. He swapped seats as well. So it was really incredible.
Oh,
Ash, your comments on this?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many layers to this conversation, right?
Yeah.
First, the one that you mentioned with the families. Of course, we're seeing so much grief. It's kind of spilling over into anger because people want their family bodies back and the authorities don't have anything to give. Such a high level of emotion that's involved in all of this. I can't even imagine what the families are going through. Probably the most important thing, other than recognizing the people that were on the plane and their families and extended friends and so forth, is the facts around this incident. And I know we won't see the facts and we won't understand the facts for a while. I was glued to every news article and every TV mention of this story. And the one thing that I was noticing very early on is that there is a initial focus on the fact that Indian aviation is somehow behind the times and somehow doesn't know what they're doing. And I was kind of stunned by that because I saw that very early on. I actually made a post because of that. And the fact is that there is not a known reason why this whole thing happened, but there are a bunch of reasons why. But there is a lot of scrutiny around the Boeing 787. And by the way, this is not new. This is not an isolated incident. The Boeing 787 Dreamliner has had tons of issues. I don't want to jump the gun and speculate. I'm going to wait to the conclusion. But it's not surprising that people are curious about the 787 Dreamliner. But the Indian authorities are going to do a great job. I think that they're going to figure all of this out. They're going to come to a very quick conclusion. But the Tata Group, I think, is going to be in a really bad position, Rian and Anne. They just recently acquired Air India. This is their first issue that they've had. And by the way, did you see the post? There was a mention in the article about how the CEO of Air India copied word for word. Why is his video message exactly identical to that of the American Airlines CEO just from a couple months ago? I watched the two videos side by side and listened to every single word. And other than the word Air India and other things that are, of course, specific to that event, the rest of the message, the structure of that message, everything was identical.
I wasn't aware of that, but that is bizarre. I mean, just about your comment, there were so many posts about it's difficult, isn't it? Because we are human. After all, we want the answers, right? So it is very difficult. The one thing I have learned from other incidents, it's normally a connection of things. It's not a single thing. It's a whole buildup of events that lead to, a fatal disaster. So we're going to have to wait. And I think you're absolutely right. They will come to a quick conclusion there with facts. So we just need to wait. But in the meantime, we really feel for those people and, their families. It is absolutely horrendous. very interesting news, this one. Qantas has decided to stop operating Jetstar Asia. So the other Jetstar operations they have still continues, but Jetstar Asia out of Singapore is going to stop. Now, I did see another post about this. There were two other airlines who said, they might step in and do this. There was speculation that, if I'm not mistaken, it might have been AirAsia X who said they might be interested in these operations. But clearly it wasn't making money. I did see an interesting post by Edward Russell where he was saying it's not cheap to run an airline out of Singapore. Singapore, Shanghai airport is not a low-cost airport. It's a high-end airport. It's very difficult to make the economics work there. And, what are your thoughts on this?
I would totally agree with that. I mean, this is a really high-end airport. I mean, Scoot is a very, very successful airline, as you know, part of Singapore Airlines. They have, of course, a hold on this market. It was 55 million loss, wasn't it, for Jetstar? So I've also been wondering about this one. And it makes perfect sense, actually. I really like this airline. I've flown them. I really enjoy them. This seems to be sort of logical thinking to me. Not surprised.
It takes guts to admit something doesn't work and then do something about it, right? It's not like they want to just keep on trying or losing money and all that.
I think we are too afraid of failure. We have to fail at times and we have to stop. And if something doesn't make sense, and this doesn't make sense, stop doing it.
Now, something that's really caught my eye, and I have to say also the comments from many in the industry, was an announcement by Apple at the recent event that they had. And they talked about quite a lot of developments they're doing in, let's call them digital passport credential type stuff. Really, this is about digital identity on your phone. Quite a lot of focus on this by Apple. Makes a lot of sense to me. Ash, what did you make of this?
Well, I've been waiting for this, and this is something that has been in the works for quite a while. As you know, facial recognition and biometrics has taken off in travel. There's a bunch of states in the U.S. that actually allow you to upload a digital version of your driver's license today, so you don't need to carry a physical license around. You can just have it on your phone. It's an eventuality that every state will, and then, of course, the passport piece is a no-brainer. The facial recognition piece, the digital ID piece, the TSA PreCheck, global entry, it's all digital now, right?
Really intrigued to see this. Of course, I live in a country that is very digital. You can upload your driving license digitally and use it, and you have digital identification left, right, and center. But I was thrilled to see this.
You recently had this issue, right? You had to do some online visa.
I did.
And it was a real pain because you had to do some photo and some background wasn't right. We've all been there, right? Whereas you could have just provided an ID out of your phone.
Exactly.
Wouldn't that be phenomenal? Yeah, I mean, there's a few things to mention about this. The way I look at this is that Apple is doing this in a way not to close us in and make it proprietary to them, but to have your phone as a digital key, which is what you want. You want that to be your digital key. And they are quite focused on standards, which we know is seriously lacking in our industry. So that's a good thing. There's going to be people questioning security around this, etc., but it will be more secure than a piece of paper you're holding in your hand. So that will be fine. The second thing that I picked up, you might be surprised to hear this, Ash, but I don't use an Apple phone, right? I use the other make, and but I have a MacBook, right? I'm quite a big Apple fan. I might switch to Apple because of something they did recently. That was that thing about the AI picking up your incoming calls to screen it for cold calls. Did you see that?
Google Voice has that, Rian, today.
Does it speak to the person on your behalf first?
Yeah, it says, I want to verify who you are. But I would say it sucks for all of you BlackBerry users. Like, this is not a feature that you're going to be able to access very soon.
Maybe there will be a BlackBerry website soon. I should all be fixed. Next story is a train-related story, and if that map looks dodgy, it is because AI generated it. This is what happens if you ask AI to generate you a map. Look at that. I ask it for, first of all, I can't spell Geneva to save its life, and then I ask it to draw me a route from London to Geneva, and it goes from Madrid somewhere or even further south. Through France. I thought I'd leave it in just to show that I didn't spend hours doing these maps. Well, I wouldn't say who it was. I'll just say ask AI. But there we go. Anyway, the story, for those who are not seeing the device, the story is that Eurostar announced plans to operate new rail services between London and Frankfurt, as well as London and Geneva. At the moment, it's mostly limited to Brussels and Paris, and they are going to magically go to these other places. Now, I say the word magically because they've been challenged with a bit of competition. Suddenly they go, yeah, okay, we'll do Frankfurt and Geneva as well. This is how I see it from the outside, unless, Anne, you have some inside information or know more about this, or unless we've got some train fundies on the call today who can tell us more, whether I'm just being very skeptical. Is there really, are those the two routes that are on demand? London to Frankfurt, London to Geneva by train?
I would say London to Frankfurt, definitely. Geneva, very doubtful. That really surprised me. So same as you. I
have a theory on this one, Anne. I think one of the Eurostar directors has got a child in boarding school in Geneva, and he needs to. So don't quote me on that.
It's the same as that the Indigo CEO, who obviously has some sort of child or somebody in Amsterdam.
Yes,
probably the same.
Asha, you ready to hop on that train to Geneva?
Okay, so I have to say this, forget about the train routes and all that stuff, but why is it that Eurostar is losing money?
Oh, yeah.
They're 20% loss of revenue, despite a 5% rise in passenger. Your passenger count went up, so which means revenue should have also go up, but instead your revenue fell 20%. And why is it going to take them a whole bunch of years to get this together? I mean, haven't we been talking about rail for such a long time? This is what's wrong with this entire push for rail, is that the rail companies don't have it together. You're trying to get people to switch their habits. When they switch their habits, they're going to be really upset because the outcome is going to be negative. I'm really disappointed in all of this. I thought in Europe, people have it together, but clearly
Ash, I hate to break it to you, but you're not the only one severely disappointed in Eurostar. This is what happens when you get state-funded monopolies. It is a disaster. Absolutely.
And the combination of many state-financed monopolies across Europe, they're not that crazy about cooperation, leaves a lot to be improved.
But we do want to turn to the audience just for a minute to say thank you so much for giving us your time on a Monday. We're not done. We've got a few more stories to cover, but this is where we ask you to comment and tell us where you're listening from and anything else you want to say so we can get your name on screen and encourage other people to send you a connection request, because that's ultimately our aim here, is to make sure more of us are connected to one another on LinkedIn. So just say hi where you're listening from, but from our side, we just wanted to say thank you for giving us your time on a Monday. So picked up a story by Alex. Really like this story. I did see the story in mainstream news as well. And Alex, you did a post about this. You might be listening today. If you are, please say hi. But I hope you don't mind us using your picture there. So this was about the American Airlines flight that went from Philadelphia to Naples. And on their way to Naples, they realized, oops, the aircraft has changed, aircraft type, and the Naples Airport Fire and Rescue Services weren't certified to receive that flight. And so they had to divert to Rome. I think, as everything else, a bunch of errors were made. That's nothing major. At least they picked up on it before they were in final descent. Right, Anne?
Well, it's the same as we've talked about so many times. How is it even remotely possible that this can happen en route? Aren't there sort of systems that will alert you beforehand? There must be. I mean, to me, this is simple business rules logic. You have systems that tell you, no, this is not going to work if you switch the aircraft. I think it really shows us how flawed it is and the need for modernization and sort of technical upgrade in general. I'm a bit shocked.
I don't think that even an upgrade of any kind will save the situation from occurring, because this is, after all, Italy. But look, if you're a passenger on this plane, you got an extra destination. You got to see Rome for a couple of days. I mean, what's wrong with this? You're on a holiday. Enjoy it.
Yeah, I agree. And then we did cover the bankruptcy of Silver Airways 2 weeks ago. And Ash, you were questioning why we have this again in the news. But this is because Silver Airways now, stopped operating entirely. They brought out this awful sign that was terrible. They just tell people, don't go to the airport. You're not traveling anymore. It just wasn't very nice. But just officially now, Silver Air, they've ended all their operations.
And I got a crack out of this. Please do not go to the airport. Yeah, you're bankrupt, you're liquidating, and I should not go to the airport. Thanks for that extra tip.
Yes,
that's obvious.
Yes. But not even to fly a competitor or another airline. Just don't go to the airport, right? Just don't travel. Yes. Yeah, I know. That was a terrible sign. Again, mainstream news affecting the industry. Of course, there's a serious ongoing Middle East conflict at the moment. Plenty of airspace is closed, causing flights to reroute. Obviously, there's serious advice about traveling in that area anyway. So that's also ongoing at the moment. Hasn't been resolved, of course, and still affecting flights in that area. So those were the mainstream stories that we picked up on. I know we've got a few extra stories from Anne's side and maybe even from Usher's side. Now, Anne, I've got 2 extra stories from your side that you told me about. The first one being about your friends at Finnair. You want to tell me what's going on there?
Well, I have no idea actually what's going on, but I mean, this has been going on for months now. I mean, what is it, 6 months? I mean, I don't understand. So tomorrow they're cancelling 146
You message our
flights.
group. You message our group to say Finnair has cancelled 140 flights. I keep thinking, but you've already told us this because you keep saying it, but it keeps happening. Yeah. That's why. Yeah. That's why I ask you: is there anything left of this airline?
Yes, I know. And I don't understand how they can carry on for this. And it's quite a small airline.
Yes.
It's not a big airline in any way. It's a small market and it's a small airline. I just don't get it.
Okay, cool. And then you have a second story, which is very interesting. Tell us about Zara clothing brand. And they have a new thing called Travel Mode. So what's that about?
Travel Mode, yes. They've only launched it in a few dedicated markets. You know, it's their way of embedding themselves into the travel experience. What they can do is that they only cater for, I think, UK, Japan, Spain, France, Turkey, so limited for now. But of course, they've got an enormous logistics network, Zara, right? They've already got all the components in place and sort of tapping into this, that you can literally shop as you arrive or have something sent to, you know, if you have limited luggage. This goes really well for Ryanair passengers, doesn't it? And so urgent need to buy something and just delivering to where the traveler is. From a sustainability angle, I can understand that this is debated. But I'm just intrigued by the fact that a company like Zara actually has got a logistics network that is actually bigger than many of the airlines we talk about.
This rings a bell. There was a story we did last year about Japan or somewhere where you could go to and they would deliver clothes to you. But in that case, they would take it back, right? It was like a hire or something.
That was a hire. That's right.
Yes.
Yeah.
That fizzled out real quick.
Yes, it didn't really take off. Surprise, surprise. And then Ush.
Space News!
So, Rian and Anne, you know that we have so much space news now that it's not even possible to talk about it on this show anymore. So I have a regular post that goes out. I just released it this morning. But there's a bunch of stories there. I'll just highlight a couple of things. T-Mobile is launching T-Satellite service in partnership with Starlink. So that's great news. Arcadia Space, which is a company that we've not talked about, they actually have confirmed testing on their hydrogen thruster, which is the first eco-friendly thruster for space travel. So that's pretty interesting. UK government has approved the acquisition of Intelsat, which is pretty big for that market. The Axiom crew mission, by the way, got postponed again and again and again. And who knows if it's going to take off now. So we'll keep an eye on that as well. SiriusXM launched a new satellite called SXM-10. Blue Origin is flying their 12th crew mission very soon, and SpaceX just completed their 500th Falcon launch. Bunch of stories, a lot of other stories. I'll put the link on the post for this past Friday so people can read it if they'd like.
Okay, very good. I do think that's a wrap. Thank you for giving us your time. It's been wonderful to have you guys in the audience. Alex, thank you for being kind about us sharing your story and just using your image. Thank you, guys, and over to you, Anne.
Thanks, everyone, and of course, thanks to Alex. Over to you, Ash.
All right, everyone. Thanks for joining today's live recording of Linking the Travel Industry. We record this podcast live every week on Monday, and we ask that you share this event with others that you know. Chances are high that if you enjoyed today's session, those that you know will as well. If you ever miss a show because of time zone availability, the podcast is available on businesstravel360.com. This is Linking the Travel Industry, signing off.